Mellisa Turner had gone through quite the glow up, some might say, but she took not being able to handle the spotlight to a much darker level. Just after Halloween of 2019, she carried out an act that with hindsight you could probably say you could see coming. This is the story of Thorned Rose, aka Mellisa Turner, the YouTuber turned CamGirl turned murderer. Now, just before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Manny Haribo. I'm a YouTuber already, but this is a new venture for me on this platform. So please do let me know how I got on in the comments, and like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Now let's get into it. Mellissa's story starts in Tampa Bay, the west coast of the Sunshine State. It's here, among the population of 3 million, that we find Mellisa Rose Turner. Born in November 1992, she's only just about young enough to understand what life was like prior to the boom of the internet. Mellisa was your average American girl growing up. She had a good upbringing, watched programs like Baywatch, and enjoyed horror films like The Evil Dead. Mellisa struggled with weight though. In her late teens, she was 250 pounds, and that knocked her self-confidence and obviously stopped her doing things that she wanted to do. But even at this age, she was into cosplay, which we'll touch on later on. At the age of 18, she graduated with an associate's degree. She had not found a job, but this caused her to have a bout of depression as she was over $26,000 in student debt. Now, I've got to give it to her because when things are tough mentally and you make changes, you've got to kind of respect that. And by 2013, at the age of 20, she weighed just 160 pounds because she changed her lifestyle and her diet so much. This obviously had a profound effect on her happiness, and soon found herself a man and became a special effects and makeup artist. This was when she found herself getting into cosplay even more and took on the name Thorned Rose. Shortly after she took the cosplay online, her fame started to skyrocket, and so did her confidence. But here's where things start to change. While at a party in 2014, she met up with a CamGirl, and this is where she became aware of the adult online industry and the money involved in it. Mellisa actually got involved the very next day. From here, she forged herself a career, but as this newly formed industry had gained more traction, competition got fierce, forcing her deeper down the rabbit hole. This is where she started making adult-themed films centered around cosplay and horror. Her independent website, twothrowedrose.com, immediately began to grow, and she featured herself on various online platforms. Her bank account balance skyrocketed.
I am Thorned Rose. You can call me Rose. I'm a cam model, I'm an artist, I love fitness. I like making videos about that and about my art and just about my daily life. And my channel over on YouTube, where I was doing all of that stuff, got deleted. I just want a place where I can post my videos, where I can talk about my life, where I can show my artwork, my cosplays, and I'm hoping Twitch is gonna be my new home and that I'm not gonna get deleted on here.
After a while, her and her boyfriend Sim opened up their own home studio where models could come from all over and use the studio for a small fee. And it worked for a time. Soon working from home took its toll, and there was allegations of abuse with the relationship, and it started to break down, and the business collapsed. Following this, Mellisa went through 2 operations and met and fell in love with another man called Matthew Tressler. Born in Massachusetts 1994, Matthew came from a very different world than Mellisa. He grew up in the small town of Hopkinton, which there's not really much to talk about. He was a quiet, hard-working, fun-loving guy, and he was a man with very strong bond with his parents and a passion for animals. He worked as a manager at an Italian restaurant, but he had much bigger dreams. He moved with his brother to Tampa, Florida to find a lucrative job and a more exciting lifestyle. He landed a job at Elite Foam, a home insulation company, and then he met Mellisa. After a short while, they became a couple. Matthew even starred in a few of Melissa's videos, and after what seemed a healthy start to the relationship, they purchased a 4-bedroom house together in Riverview, Florida. Things were great, or so they seemed. To be fair, they were doing well for their age. Matthew posted to Facebook, "A quarter century later, I've got a mortgage, a pup, 4 fur babies, and a wonderful girl. I'm a happy man." I also realised I'm getting older, and instead of sleeping in, my ass woke up at 6:30 without an alarm. Sim, Melissa's ex, had grown jealous of the pair and at one point pulled a gun on Matthew. Nevertheless, Mellisa seemed happy and Matthew still seemed happy too. Mellisa even posted on social media that after a year and a half they were still as happy as they were in the beginning. Now, while outwardly online they seemed quite happy, as you know, sometimes this can be a bit of a facade. Matthew was actually isolating himself quite a lot from the family, and his brother Sean described the relationship as completely and utterly toxic. Eventually Matthew's socials moved in the opposite direction, and in September 2019 Matthew posted, "Don't be a fool and blame others. Fight your own war." And then his relationship status was set to single. And just 4 weeks after this, Matthew would be dead.
911, what is your emergency?
I woke up on my boyfriend. He was outside this morning. He's cold. He's gone. The kitchen's a bloody mess. He's not breathing.
Why is the kitchen a bloody mess?
I don't know.
Police arrived on October the 18th at 8:45 AM after a frantic phone call. Moving to the rear of the house, they found Matthew's lifeless body next to the pool. He'd been stabbed. Melissa's story was that she'd found Matthew just before making the call to the police and apparently attempted CPR, and emergency service workers had also tried to save Matthew's life, but they were too late. Now, things was eerie anyway when you were turning up just after Halloween, but the thing is, with Matthew's lifeless body, rigor mortis had already set in, and he had several defensive wounds and stab wounds to the back. Police were immediately suspicious of Mellisa, and after taking her down to the police station, her story changed. She had initially said that she'd found him next to the pool.
Do you have any injuries on your person?
No,
Any scratches or cuts or anything?
not that I've noticed. I mean,
Would you mind
I think
taking
I
your...
did grab the glass though.
I was going to say, would you mind just taking those gloves off for me? You put them right in that trash can.
Yeah, I have a little cut on my hand. But
Can we see where you're going to?
right there.
And that's from what?
I think it's from grabbing the glass. Or, because I know there was the broken glass this morning. I'm sorry, this morning's not the clearest thing in my mind.
The next story was, after a night out drinking, Matthew had turned back up at home, and after a falling out, Matthew had hit her and attacked her with a knife. But she had took the knife from him, grabbing it on the bladed end. Matthew then threw her to the ground, started strangling her, and in defence, Mellisa stabbed Matthew. Now obviously by this point, the police were very concerned. Mellisa had already admitted to lying to them. And how did she stab him in the back if he was strangling her? And the wound to her hand looked a lot more like her hand had slipped onto the blade of the knife while stabbing someone, rather than her grabbing the knife in self-defence. Now, while officers back at the station were interviewing Mellisa, Officer Ryan Legacy was knocking door to door and noticed a surveillance camera facing the rear of the residence that Matthew and Mellisa lived at. Unfortunately, the video footage was no good. A fence was blocking all the view of the pool and the patio. However, there was some audio captured. And it's at this point when Matthew's smartwatch stops detecting his heartbeat. Now, with Mellisa coming across as the main aggressor in the audio footage, the fact that she'd already lied to the police, and the fact that her injuries were just inconsistent with her defending herself, it seemed much more likely that she'd actually attacked and killed her boyfriend in a frenzied attack and was trying to cover it up. But that's not the worst thing. She'd actually waited 4 hours to contact emergency services. As such, she was arrested for the murder of Matthew Tressler, and while on remand, she even bragged about how much money she still had from her work. This sparked a debate as to whether she should be allowed to use a public defender or she should be made to pay for her own. The prosecutors offered her 30 years, but she countered with 5. A trial was set and Mellisa told the court how Matthew was an abusive partner, which would have compounded the grief for his family, but thankfully the jury saw right through her lies. The defensive wounds, audio records, and time she waited to call the emergency services showed a woman who wanted her partner dead. Jurors were given the choice of second-degree murder, manslaughter, or not guilty, and they finally agreed on second-degree murder. This was an interesting case to me because it showed the other side of domestic violence, which isn't really spoken about and rarely sees any media attention at all. Another interesting fact about this case was that she only got 20 years after the plea deal was going to give her 20 to 30 years. I think that's because she got second-degree murder though, rather than murder in the first degree. My last thought on this is that I think that Mellisa really deserved her accolades at the beginning. You know, mentally, she was in a really dark place and she brought herself up and she put herself in a position where, you know, she deserved to be confident. But then moving into the adult entertainment space and being an influencer, she should have just stayed humble. She got way too big for her boots. And I think that that was probably part and parcel as the reason why Matthew Tressler is dead today. So guys, there is my first case. I hope you've enjoyed my coverage on this one. And if you want to catch me again, make sure you subscribe. Take care for now.